And now, your official TigerBait live show with Mike Scarborough and Buddy Songi starts now.
All right, guys, we are live, and as you can see, it's not Buddy Songi with me tonight. It's my good buddy John Eads over at WAFB, and he's up in the fancy new digs in the new studio up at WAFB, and I think we got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of stuff going on LSU football, Army coming to town. LSU looks like they're putting it together and has a little bit more light defensively. LSU women's basketball team, preseason ranked number 1. Picked to win the SEC. The men, not so much. Picked to finish second to last in the SEC. And a lot of recruiting. We had a big Bryce Underwood update on TigerBait.com earlier today. And so we're going to get to as many questions as you can. But, John, welcome in. I just got to ask you first off, Jacques Doucet is now the sports director. Is he throwing his weight around? Is he asking you guys to pick up his dry cleaning? Is he saying, do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal. Got many leather-bound books.
No, none of that yet. I mean, just been the same guy that he was before he was the sports director. So the transition's been good so far. Obviously big shoes to fill all around for him, for me, for Kevin. It's hard to replace 40 years of what Steve Schneider did and built here. But as Jacques would tell you, we're going to do our very best each and every day. And I think he's a perfect guy to replace Steve. You know, those two have been like the stepbrothers almost, like the guy on the stool. And then Jacques was on the stool. And then Steve was behind him perhaps with his hands on the shoulder. And now it's Jacques' turn to take over, I suppose. And Kevin and I will assist and do whatever we can to help him out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your thoughts on what you've seen so far this season? You and I talked, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. I had you on. We did an impromptu Tuesday afternoon chat, and we were lamenting the defense, but it sure seems like there was some tweaks at Missouri and then Auburn. Of course, we thought against Auburn that that was actually a matchup for LSU where they probably would look their best. I thought earlier in the week that they would put it all together and it would be one of their better performances. And also the fact that it was just they had been on the road and they were looking forward to a home game. And so you had perfect weather, an Auburn team that is well coached, but they don't have the players that they need offensively to get it done. But still, I think defensively, it's kind of what we thought all season long, where if LSU could just get mediocre defense or below average, that nice things can happen. And I think there's a good bit to chew on going forward that makes you feel better about how LSU can finish out this season.
Definitely. It's kind of like a level, you get the offense up here, the defense kind of down here. Can we kind of meet in the middle? That's what we're looking for. Lots of breakdown. They have looked a lot better, I think, in the past couple of weeks. Obviously at Missouri, a great second half, holding them to just 14 points. It really helps when you get turnovers. Like that's kind of the ultimate medicine for a bad defense, is if you can recreate that line of scrimmage, get some pressure, and then force some turnovers in the back end. So that certainly helped them out in that game. And then Auburn, it was a favorable matchup because the Tigers, the other ones, very run heavy. They can't pass like at all. It was Robbie Ashford, Peyton Thorne, their two quarterbacks, basically just running essentially the Wildcat. And then they'd hand it off to Jarquez Hunter, one of their running backs, and this other guy they had. But there's no passing game whatsoever. So the defense could load up the box, blitz, send a lot of pressure. And Auburn made a couple plays on the outside, but obviously not enough because they lost by 30 points. So, yes, the defense looked good. I thought they would because this is a very limited offense. What I want to see now is, can this team, against an offense that can both run and pass, at least do so somewhat competently, look the same way? We're not going to really get that answer against Army because, again, they're a run-heavy team. Then you got the bye week. Then you play Alabama, and their run game hasn't been great this year. Their offensive line hasn't been great this year, but they do have the elements of the deep ball, and they certainly can run it down your throat if you're not ready to defend the run. So to kind of zoom out a little bit from a bird's eye perspective, Mike, this is looking just like last year where LSU starts out a little bit slow, turns it up a little bit in the middle of the season, gets hot, beats Alabama, and goes on a great stretch to end the season. That kind of feels like where we are right now. They're getting hot at the right time. Now they've got Army, a bye week, and then Alabama, a game I'm calling the SEC West Super Bowl, because if LSU wins that game, I think they win the entire SEC West, maybe the whole SEC.
You and I are on the same page, because I was saying after Florida State that could this season be a similar play out as last year. And it is a little bit, not quite, but there's a lot of similarities. I'll say that. But at this point, LSU only had one loss. The Ole Miss, I think, is going to be, if things play out the way I think they can for LSU, that Ole Miss loss is going to sting heavily at the end of November.
Might hurt.
Yeah. When you see what possibilities could be for the postseason and the way things could shake out, that Ole Miss game is going to, I think, is going to sting LSU fans pretty hard.
I think so too, because you don't really control your own destiny, because they have the tiebreaker right now. Ole Miss is 2-1 in conference. They got a lot of conference games still to play, and LSU has that one loss, obviously, to Ole Miss. So if both teams win out, then Ole Miss gets the bid to the SEC championship because they beat you head-to-head. So you essentially need them to lose one more time, which is very doable, because I'm pretty sure they still have to play Georgia. They still got some tough matchups, A&M on the slate, so very losable games. But if they do win out and you go on this crazy run, you beat Alabama, you beat Florida, you beat A&M, and everybody else, you're out of luck because you lost to Ole Miss and Oxford. So I don't think that's how it's going to happen, especially if LSU beats Alabama. I really think Ole Miss will lose one more game. But if they don't, you're right, it could really sting at the end of the season. So we'll see.
Absolutely. All right, guys, if you're enjoying the show, as always, please hit the like button. And if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. We're going to go right till about 9 o'clock. So let's dive into some of these comments. Cameron Tate says, good evening, guys. What's the scoop with recruiting? With the 2 decommitments and the buzz from last weekend's visit, is the timing a coincidence? I think there is a little bit of a coincidence. LSU certainly did not want to lose Andre Evans, the cornerback to Georgia that flipped today, but it was also, there's been some writing on the wall about that one for a number of days, and or maybe longer than that. And but I think also after last weekend and the caliber of the visits, and we've reached out to many of them, LSU is really, I think, going to make up for it. And A&M is girding their loins right now because LSU is coming for 2 or 3 of their commitments. And I don't think it's, Draylon Miller's decommitment, one of the top wide receivers in the state of Texas. After he visited LSU, he decommits. And there's others that certainly Bussey, LSU was in it for him. He commits to A&M just weeks ago, and there's some buzz about him flipping. And so I think this class is going to be fine. You certainly don't want to lose any more corners. And then again, about last weekend, the 25 class for LSU, I think, is going to be absolutely stellar. And so we had a nice Bryce Underwood update. We had some really nice tidbits in that one, which is hard to come by when it comes to Bryce Underwood. So if you're not already subscribed to TigerBait, go try us out for $1, our premium package for 1 week, and you'll enjoy that. And I think we've got some more coming on that.
And Mike, Bryce is from Belleville, which isn't too far from where I grew up. That's a great program up there. I know Michigan really wants him. I'm low-key a Michigan fan. I grew up one. But for me, it's kind of, I can't go wrong either way, because if he goes to Michigan, if he goes to Michigan, he goes to Michigan. If he goes to LSU, he goes to LSU. But I think what Jaden Daniels and Denbrock have done this year to just showcase what this offense can be with a quarterback that can pretty much check all the boxes, it's a pretty darn good selling point, pretty darn good package. And it seemed like he was having a great time at the game this weekend based on some things you tweeted and I've seen other people tweet. So,
man, let me tell you something. LSU really puts it together. I don't know how they figured to get him on the jumbotrons in the crowd, but that was a big deal. You got Theo Vaughn and other celebrities meeting them in as they finish up the walk in pregame. the kid's been on campus now a handful of times. He keeps coming back. I always tell you guys in recruiting, it's not what they tweet. It's not what gloves they wear on Friday nights at their games. It's none of that. It's follow their visits, follow where they go unofficially, where they camp, and tally that up. That gives you the bigger idea as to where they're probably leaning, particularly guys like Bryce Underwood, who does not do interviews. So you're familiar with the area. What do you tell us about Belleville? Is the quality of the competition in that district of football? What do you know?
It's really good competition. And Belleville, I think, is one of the most respected programs in the whole state. I mean, year after year, they just churn out D1 talent. Michigan's in there all the time. Michigan State's there recruiting. Ohio State, Penn State. People are flying helicopters and stuff to come to these games and watch these guys play. Just every year, they've got 10 to 15 D1 level prospects. So Underwood, all these guys are playing against each other every day in practice. It's the creme de la crop against the creme de la crop every day. And them, West Bloomfield's another really well-respected program in Michigan. They're in the mix for the state title every single year. And people start talking about these kids, covering these kids as freshmen, even as eighth graders in some cases. So it's a very good program up there. And if you can steal this guy from Michigan, that would be a massive win for LSU. And I think that he can replicate a lot of what Jaden Daniels has done and maybe then some. So that would be a huge get. And if they get him quickly, as you know, Mike, getting a premier level guy early in a recruiting class and a recruiting cycle can just make other people want to jump on board quickly. And they've already got a 5-star plus receiver committed into Corey and Moore. So, I mean, if you add the quarterback into the mix, it's looking like a pretty special cycle.
Absolutely. And that is a big deal because it's the quarterback. That's your Pied Piper recruit. And so, I don't know, look, you get a kid like that on board early and the dominoes just start to fall. And look, they're all talking to each other. These kids, it doesn't matter if one's from Michigan and another one's from the Dallas area and another one's from IMG. They all know each other. They've all gone to the camps, the various competition and combine camps that happen during the spring and summer. They know each other and they talk, and they've got group text amongst each other. And so I think that 25 class is going to be special. And I think the 24 class, you just need to finish out strong. I think there's going to be multiple junior college defensive linemen in this class. They're going to have to hit the portal. But hold on to what you got and then go pick off some of these others. And we're going to see how it plays out here. Fire 3449, Mike, he says, hit the like button, support Greg Brooks. Absolutely. Keep Greg Brooks in your thoughts and prayers. Jimmy Lindsay as well. He also says, Mike, if Greg Brooks hadn't gotten sick and had played this year, do we have as much trouble in pass defense this year? I don't think so. I think he absolutely could have held. He's also a big leader back there that's missing. So
I agree. I mean, it couldn't hurt. It doesn't ever hurt to have more experience in the back end, because when he went out, they put in Andre Sam, from what I understand. And he certainly played a lot of big time college ball, transferring from Marshall and starting his career somewhere else. So he's played a lot of snaps, but Greg Brooks has played in these games before. He's played in this system before. I mean, last year he had that takeaway against Auburn. Like, you can't just imagine that. You can't just buy that at a store. That's stuff that you have to go through and actually do. So I think they would be a lot further along if they had Brooks. Obviously, he played game one and the defense didn't look great against Florida State, but first week of the season, things happen.
I think he's that vocal guy that's going to grab a hold of somebody's face mask and tell them to tune in and, get their head right. You're missing a guy like that. Andy Whitaker with a super chat. Do you think Brian Kelly will try to grab a dual threat quarterback out of the portal? I think it's pretty clear that's the kind of quarterback he wants. And do you think Walker Howard is kicking himself right now? Look, that's nothing they're going to discuss. I just think logically, and I've been saying it for months, that you've got to go in the portal and get a quarterback. I don't know if it's a guy that would be for December, a guy who can come and be a part of spring football, or if it's a guy that finishes out his year or is maybe a grad and needs the spring semester to graduate. So he's a grad transfer. But I think it makes sense that you get a guy in there. Maybe not necessarily to compete with Garrett Nussmeier for the starting job. I think it would be great if he was there in spring. But you don't want to go into next season with whatever expectations, and they're not going to be diminished. Where you've got Garrett Nussmeier, who we still don't know what he can do truly, and a redshirt freshman in Ricky Collins, and a true freshman who will barely be 17 in Colin Hurley.
Yeah. No, I agree. No shade to Nussmeier. He came in the SEC title game and looked really good. The thing for me, though, is just watching what this offense has done this year. Do you see what a dual threat quarterback just adds into this gumbo of this offense with all the playmakers, the scheme? Like, you need a dual threat quarterback to take this system to the max, which is what LSU is doing right now. They're putting up school record numbers, even better than 2019. With Jaden Daniels, who can obviously make all the throws. He's very smart, very experienced, very poised, but he's also got great speed and can take off and just extend plays. When there's not a play, he can make a play. So I totally agree. I think you really need to get a dual threat quarterback out of the portal. I'm sure there's going to be options as the season goes along and seasons end, and quarterbacks are making decisions. You got Daniels out of the portal, so you just got to find maybe another one of him somewhere. But I agree. I mean, Nussmeier could be the guy. He could be a good quarterback. I just think that you're going to hit a ceiling if he's your starting quarterback, because he doesn't have much of that run game element, and it just makes the offense even better. And then Ricky Collins is behind him. We haven't seen much of him, and it seems like he needs a little bit more time from what I understand. You almost wish Bryce Underwood would reclassify and maybe come in next year and start as a true freshman if that's at all possible. But other than that, you got to hit the portal, bring somebody else in to either start or at least push Nussmeier along.
Well, you're going to get the Nuss people upset. I think you want someone to test him and push him, but I think it's mainly you want a strong number two. Look around the league. Look at the schools. Look at what is happening in College Station right now. You really are in a luxury if you've got a number two who can win football games for you. And I just think Ricky Collins is going to need more time. And LSU's had great success, obviously, with transfer quarterbacks.
Just think of it like the NFL. You got to, find the resources to get a backup. Like, look at schools like Georgia and Michigan. They've got talented guys behind the starters that can at least salvage the season if things kind of, go all out of whack, and that's kind of all you need at that backup position. But if anything, if Nussmeier struggles, because I imagine he's going to get a shot to start. He has to. But if he struggles in spring camp, in fall camp, summer, you brought that transfer portal guy in, you have him as an option if you need him.
Andy Whitaker, thank you for that super chat. Another super chat from Kindercamp. What are we going to do when Power Fives come calling Joe Sloan this offseason for OC? Hopefully it doesn't impact the 225 quarterbacks. Look, that is a real possibility. When you have success and it not, and this is different. It's, usually when you win a national championship or whatever, you have other teams wanting to, go hit some of your staffers. But what this offense is doing, and obviously Joe Sloan is doing a good job in recruiting. It's obvious. He very well could have some coaches out there looking to see about making him their OC. So I think Sloan's got it good at LSU. I think it's going to have to be a pretty plum job for him to leave, because I think Sloan, you can bump him up. Actually, I'd have to go back and look him up, but even as a quarterbacks coach, I imagine his salary is more than probably half or 2/3 of OC's what they make in the rest of college football. That's just because LSU pays position coaches so well.
And you have to if you want to win and bring in guys like the caliber of Sloan that can just make your entire coaching staff and your team better. But, it happens every year. I mean, people see success. They want a piece of that, and they'll take out a piece of that if the price is right. So I think the only way that he would leave is if it is for an OC job at probably like a Power 5 school, I would say. So, it's kind of a tough position to be in because at the end of the day, most of the time, money talks. I know that LSU's got a strong tradition. He's had success here. But again, most of the time, money talks. So wait and see on that. But enjoy the rest of the season with him. Don't even be thinking about next season because we're already like halfway through this year. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Absolutely. Thank you for that super chat, Kinder Camp. Let me scroll down and see what else we've got. Yeah, you bring in another quarterback in case he gets hurt, says Mac, talking about what we're talking about earlier. Stephen Miller's got a question for you. Eads, question, how's the dual threat quarterback slowing down Washington's offense right now?
That's a good point. I mean, Michael Penix's not much of a runner. What he does have are 3 elite wide receivers up there, and he kind of just throws the rock all over the yard. They do have a good run game. So I'm not trying to say a pro-style quarterback can't work at all. I'm just saying that I think with a dual threat quarterback like Jaden, like say the ceiling's here with Nussmeier, with Jaden, it's like right here. Like it's not that big of a difference, but there is a bit of a difference there because, as I said, you really can't have a bad play when your quarterback can run, assuming that he's, all right in the head and understands how to escape the pocket and when to gamble, when not to gamble. If a passing play is completely covered and he could scramble, you got 20 yards on the ground. A pocket quarterback that can't run that well, that's either a sack or a throwaway, and that's 20 yards you're losing. And say that happens 5 times during a football game, that's 100 yards. So I also think Washington is going to lose a couple of games this year. I know they're hot right now. They beat Oregon. That's all fine and dandy. But I think that component right there might come back to bite them at some point this year in a game where, they might need Penix to use his legs on a couple of plays. And football games oftentimes are decided by just a couple of plays. And when you can basically do anything from an offensive standpoint, you can call any play you want and you can still move the ball. I mean, you're pretty darn unstoppable, and that's what LSU has been right now. That's why they've put up 500-plus yards of total offense in 6 straight games. It's the combination of Logan Diggs, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, obviously Jaden Daniels in the O-line. They cannot do anything wrong. Everything they call, it works, whether it's from the scheme or Jaden just making plays. So that's all I'm trying to say. It's not that it can't work. I'm just saying it's as explosive as it can be when you got a dual-threat quarterback.
Well, and here's the other part of it. Nussmeier can actually run. He's probably a 4.7, 4.8 guy. I mean, he's not.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, he can move. Right. Burrow's probably a 4.8, 4.9 guy.
He can move a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But Jaden, Jaden is 0 to 40 in 2 seconds, man. Like he can turn a covered up passing play with a cover 4 defense still into like a 40-yard gain. It's as if they didn't even call the passing play. And that's just, you can't coach that. So if you could find that, it just makes your offense even better. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, college coaches want a guy who can do both. And if they can't get the top guy who can do both and they start scaling down the board to what they can get, it's usually a guy who probably can't run as much or runs a 4.9. He's not the 4.4 guy or 4.5 or the 22-mile-an-hour guy like they say Jaden Daniels is. Because what happens is you just have to go back about a decade to Zach Mettenberger, and in order to function well with a guy like that, if he's going to be your quarterback for multiple years, you can't have an off year where you have a questionable offensive line.
Yeah.
You have to have great offensive linemen who are healthy. And so, whereas a guy like Jaden Daniels gives you some options, you have a shaky offensive line, he could be the difference and cover up some of their negatives. So
yeah, and it changes the way defenses game plan too, Mike. Like if you got a dual threat quarterback, you run a read option, they got to account for the quarterback. So that gives the running back more opportunities to find a lane, the offensive lineman to put a hat on a hat and open up a crease for them to find a hole. So I'm just a big dual threat quarterback proponent. With that said, though, it can't be all run and no arm. So if you got a quarterback that's more arm than legs, you'd probably want to lean on the arm because obviously in today's day and age of college football, it's pretty pass heavy typically.
Absolutely. Brad David, or is it David, $4.99 super chat. How many more games does Jimbo need to win to keep his job? I don't think he's going anywhere. You look at the breakdown year by year. What is it? It's over $70 million. They would have to cut him a check. I don't believe there's any chance of him going anywhere this year. I look at the rest of their schedule. I tend to think 7-5 is where they're going to land. Do you realize that they have not won a road SEC game in 2 years?
Really?
That is insane.
That is insane. That's kind of damning if you ask me.
Yeah, that is their biggest issue. They have not won a road SEC game in 2 years. And there's something else I didn't realize. While LSU and most other schools will fly up for a road game on a Friday, they actually leave on Thursday. A&M
does?
Yeah. So, they're questioning everything there. Why are they so bad on the road? So, they haven't won at LSU since the mid 90s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And then there was a gap.
Coming into
LSU, they didn't start playing again until they came back in the league over a decade ago.
Makes sense. Coming into the season, I had A&M as a 10-2 team, and I thought when they played LSU in the last week of the season, the winner of that game would win the SEC West. And I certainly think they could be back on that trajectory if Connor Weigman, their quarterback, didn't get hurt, because they looked pretty. I know they lost at Miami, but other than that, they look pretty darn good. And Max Johnson's a good backup. We've talked about backup quarterbacks already, but there's a reason why he hasn't found a landing spot necessarily. He's limited. There's only so much he can do. So on the one hand, you're kind of getting fed up with Jimbo because you're like, all right, you're bringing in top 5 recruiting classes every year, and you're playing as if you're Vanderbilt. No offense to Vanderbilt. When are we going to start seeing elite results? And this year it's kind of tough because you lose your starting quarterback, and you bring in 4 and 5 stars every year at quarterback, so it shouldn't be a problem, but it is a problem. It throws you off. And so, as you said, that buyout's pretty darn large, and I think it would be quite a statement if they gave him that buyout and hired a new coach. I think they won't fire him, but he has to end the season well. And I'm talking, he's got to beat South Carolina, definitely got to beat Mississippi State, and you either got to beat Ole Miss or LSU, I think, to really turn the temperature down a little bit. You got to salvage, I think, 8 wins out of this season if you're Jimbo and A&M.
If they don't split Ole Miss and LSU, I think they go in the offseason in a really bad way. And and by the way, it's not just the money you owe Jimbo. You've got millions of dollars in contracts for staff, coordinators.
Yep.
You just brought in Bobby Petrino with a nice salary, and that's a guaranteed 2 or 3 year deal.
Hasn't done much.
It's not just the Jimbo money. So what are you talking about? It getting close to 90 that you would be cutting checks for, and then you got to go out and pay premium for a guy. And so who can you get right now? I mean, who can you
Good question.
who can they get that's going to say this is a big elevation over Jimbo?
I wouldn't say it's a big elevation, but they could bring Mike Elko back from Duke, I guess, if he's available. I know Michigan State kind of wants him, but I don't know if that's an upgrade right out of the gate, year one. So I don't know. I mean, the Petrino thing's not a good look, because sometimes as a head coach, when you have a bad year, you're like, all right, it was my OC's fault. Push him out, exit stage left, bring a new one in. But you're putting up 13 points at Tennessee, and I watched that game, and the offense was lifeless, really. It took Max Johnson making some crazy throws for this ball to even get moved down the field. And you got so many playmakers there, Anais Smith and Moss and the receivers, Evan Stewart, and you're only capable of putting up 13 points. Seriously. Meanwhile, LSU's putting up 45 like nobody's business. I don't know. I mean, it's a tough situation with all the contracts, all the money they're throwing around, and it's not leading to wins and losses. It's leading to losses, not wins.
Absolutely. Brad, thank you for that super chat. And let's hear from Mike Faraday and Alex Martinez with Pride Roofing.
Hey, it's Michael and Alex again with Pride Roofing. Here we grow again. Did your roof get to Niger and Hurricane Ida?
The insurance company is playing game with you.
Don't forget, August 29th is your 2-year anniversary to make a claim.
Your neighbor got new roof. Why not you?
Pay your deductible. We're fortified, certified.
We do your roof. You came on the Pride umbrella. Bet on Pride.
855 Pride 16.
There you go. Pride Roofing, the official roofing company of TigerBait.com. Call them at 855-PRIDE-16. Tell them you heard about them on TigerBait, and they're going to give you free TigerBait premium for a year. They're paying for it. And, of course, anywhere in South Louisiana, based in Hammond, big on the North Shore, big here in Baton Rouge, new office on Government, big new office in Houma. anywhere in South Louisiana, they've got you covered with Pride Roofing. Nobody does it better than them. All right, John, let's get to a few more of these. And let's see. Here we go. Palermo Trapani. Bama is at home and the favorite. Them winning is the odds-on favorite. I tell you what, I said in the preseason that I thought LSU was going to beat Alabama for the second year in a row. And now I talked to Jacques earlier. He called me when he was on his way out for engagement, and he said he looked somewhere that the line on the game was Alabama minus 13.5. That's got to be old, because I think it's got to be Alabama like -2 or like that. Because if you can get 13.5, you take it right now. Because I think LSU is probably going to win that game straight up. I'm calling it now.
Yeah, he told me that. I was like, oh, where's the nearest casino? Because I want to put some money down. That is so fat. Like Tennessee is, I think, a 9 or so point dog to them this week. And I think LSU is way better than Tennessee. And the game is in Tuscaloosa too. I don't get that line. And I'm with you, Mike. Preseason, I thought LSU was winning the West. If you want receipts, they're on our YouTube page and on my Twitter and my legal pads. I had Alabama as a 9-3 team. And you know what? For a few weeks there, I was like, maybe not. But the way they've played lately, every week, doesn't matter how good, how bad your defense is, this LSU offense is posting 40-plus points. Missouri had a very solid defense. Auburn had a top 25 defense. Like, these are good defenses they're playing. They're not all trash, okay? So if they can do that against Alabama, maybe not put up 40, but, like, lead the way like they have been every week from an offensive standpoint, and the defense can just do enough, how can you not feel good about this team? Because Alabama sleepwalked their way to a win against Arkansas, just like LSU did a few weeks ago, for sure. But they just don't look like the juggernaut they typically are. If you contain Jermaine Burton, their wide receiver 1, you don't let them hit the deep ball, and you just stack up the run game, which hasn't been great because the offensive line is less than stellar, you're going to be just fine. So this offense is hot. There's no offense that even comes close to touching what LSU has put up week in, week out in the SEC West at least. So, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about LSU's chances in that game. So I'd be putting down the house on LSU plus 13.5 right now.
I'll say this too. If LSU wins that game and it's a typical Jaden Daniels performance that we've seen, then that really catapults him in this Heisman deal.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That'll be I'm assuming, when are we going to find out for sure? CBS night game? When do they release that? Monday?
Yeah, probably pretty soon. I haven't seen anything yet.
I think it's got to be Monday. But that that's what it's going to be. Like you said to start the show, this is the SEC West Super Bowl. That's gonna. I'm assuming it's gonna be their doubleheader that day on CBS. So y'all gonna be buzzing over there at AFB, no doubt. I'm
hyped for that game. That's gonna be so much fun. I think it's gonna be one of the games of the season. And yeah, Jaden Daniels should be leading the Heisman conversation right now, if not at least number 2 behind Michael Penix, just like he is in the midseason All-American list. And if he leads this team to a win and puts up the numbers he's been putting up, there's no doubt he should be right back in there. And this whole, they have 2 loss narrative should just be thrown in the trash can.
James Wade with a super chat. Chance that Jaden Daniels is a first-round NFL quarterback. I'm going to ask you, have you seen anything? And I admit I have not dug around to see if there's been any heavily adjusted draft boards by any of the guys like Kuiper and the many others. I have not seen anything. But I got to believe when Jaden has absolutely fixed the holding on to the ball, his intermediate throws, his deep balls. I know John's done a lot of breakdowns on his the breakdowns that he does on YouTube a lot, and him hitting all the routes and the trees and what he's doing. He's got to be scaling way up the board. And when I watch the NFL, I think he can absolutely play in that league for a long time and be a starter for somebody.
Well, you would think, but the most recent draft board, hot board for quarterbacks, he was outside the top 10 in the one I saw. And I'm like, what? Are you even watching the LSU games? Like, I know that they have kind of been out of the national landscape for a few weeks, but it's like people aren't even watching. They got other quarterbacks ahead of him that, it's kind of like a Will Levis, Malik Willis type thing. Like, it's all hype and no bite. You know what I mean? Like, those guys aren't doing anything in the NFL. So I certainly think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. What's not to like? He's tough. He's mentally poised. He's going to knock out the interviews. He can make all the throws. Yeah, he's got great receivers, but like, he's putting those receivers in positions to make plays. It is very rare that Jaden Daniels misses a throw. Like, he threw one slightly behind Malik Neighbors against Auburn, and I was like, what just happened? Did he really miss a throw? Because this guy's been hot all year, and he's hitting on every level. The deep slot fade, the in route over the middle to Neighbors, to Thomas, to Lacey. That's the thing that gets me. It doesn't matter who's catching the ball. Yeah, he might have good chemistry with Malik Neighbors, but the throw looks the exact same when it's to Thomas, to Lacey, to Chris Hilton, to Aaron Anderson, whoever you want to put at wide receiver there. Not to mention he runs, but he runs smart. Like, he doesn't escape the pocket too early and get sacked. Maybe we saw that a little bit last year. He gets hit sometimes, but he rarely ever fumbles the ball unless he just gets absolutely lit up. And in this last game, he showed that he's kind of learned how to protect himself, how to slide, how to go out of bounds. So again, he just checks all the boxes. I don't know what exactly he needs to improve on right now to be a top 5 quarterback for the NFL. But I think by season's end, if he keeps this up, he stays healthy, because that's the other thing. He has no injury concerns as of right now. He should absolutely be in the discussion to be a first-round quarterback. What's not to like?
Absolutely. And if he slips to later rounds, somebody's getting a deal.
It's a steal.
Absolutely.
Hendon
Thank you for that.
Hooker went in the 3rd. So
yeah. Thank you for that super chat, James Wade. Another super chat from Kinder Camp. What is the likelihood that LSU take 2 wide receivers under 5'10" in the 25 class? And Jalen Coleman and Babineau. I really like Babineau. I saw him at spring football. We filmed at KDN last week. In fact, I still got to get his footage posted for you guys to see it on TigerBait. Tyler filmed John Curtis at KDN at John Curtis last week. And so, yeah, I don't have a problem with 5'10" wide receivers. Aaron Anderson's 5'8". Yeah. I want to see more of Aaron Anderson getting hit on quick slants. That's what I want to see more of.
You and me both. He kind of fits that slot position really well. You need to bring those 5'10" guys in, those speedsters, those burners over the middle. Malik Neighbors isn't even that tall, but he not only can hit that dig route, he can also catch a jump ball one-on-one. So if you got ballers, doesn't matter what their height is, if they can go up and get the ball, bring them in. But with that said, you still got to bring in those more rangy guys with the speed to play on the outside. So you kind of got to spread out and vary the guys you're recruiting, the skill sets, the natural raw abilities, things like that. One quick thing, Mike. Stephen Miller tweeted at us, and he showed us a screenshot. Looks like the Bama LSU line is down to a touchdown, which I think is a little bit more respectful.
Absolutely. All right. Let's hear from Brittany at Drip IV. I talked to her yesterday and really went through all their products, and let's hear what she has to say. All right. I'm excited. Got Brittany Sabille here with Drip IV to really give the ins and outs of what they do over there. Obviously, you guys have heard me talk about them each and every week on our post-game shows, our midweek shows. And Brittany, take it away. Tell them about the Drip IV, the semaglutide, in the works.
Absolutely. So at Drip IV, we have a lot of services for you. A big thing that we do is our IV therapy, different vitamins, minerals, amino acids that support the body in various stages, whether it is illness or you're dehydrated, maybe you're a little hungover. We can definitely help you with that. There's tons and tons and tons of benefits. And maybe you don't have the time and you just need to come and get a shot from us. We offer a lot of those different vitamins, minerals, amino acids in shot form as well. We do NAD, which is really cool. As you age, your NAD levels decrease. And so supplementing with this, we can increase your energy, get you feeling like you're 18 again, help with your sleep. We do semaglutide for weight loss, which we're having wonderful, wonderful results. I had a girl in here earlier. She lost 40 pounds, totally changed her life. She was texting me, I can't even fit in my brand new pants. So we're loving that as well. And then if anybody's interested in stem cell therapy, I'd love to talk to you about that too. We offer a lot.
Semaglutide, and I was telling Brittany before we went to record this, many of my friends are using it. We go out to dinner, they're taking half their meals to go. So the price savings on the semaglutide, whether you have them give you the shot or you are able to give your own shot, some people can, some people can't. They make that offer for you. But the savings, yes, you have the expense of the semaglutide, but the food costs, I'm telling you, I'm seeing it in everybody around me. And there's multiple sports talk media guys out there that are using semaglutide, and the weight's falling off of people. And so not only do you have the health benefit, you have the food cost benefit.
And there's some significant cardiovascular benefits with semaglutide. I'm seeing lower cholesterol, lowering 3-month averages, your A1C with it. So incredible things. It's medically managed. I make sure that you're not having too many side effects. And then we also offer at-home injections, which is a really great service for people, especially if you travel a lot. Definitely loving that as well. And our prices are very competitive with other people. You show me a place that could beat us.
Tell us where to find you, both Baton Rouge and Lafayette.
So we are located next to Sushiyama in Baton Rouge, open 8 to 4 p.m. during the week, Monday to Friday. Just started offering weekends, so 9 to 1. You can check us out for your post-game recovery. And then in Lafayette, we are off of Ambassador Caffrey and Cordoba medical office buildings. They are at similar hours, 8 to 4:30 during the week, and open weekends as well, 9 to 1.
All right, go see Brittany and her team at Drip IV here in Baton Rouge and again in Lafayette. And we'll be talking soon, Brittany.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, head over to Drip IV, say TigerBait, and no, I wasn't wearing a ton of makeup or whatever happened on that. I was blown out looking red and pink, wearing rouge, whatever, lipstick. I hit the HDR button on my deal, and man, it made me look ridiculous. But fantastic stuff over at Drip IV. All right, John, let's dive right in. Dane Bergeron with a super chat. Lacey and Anderson should get 1,000 slant passes in practice prior to the Alabama game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lacey stepped up, Mike, because Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors attracted so much attention. I think Thomas only had 2 catches for 7 yards, but Lacey stepped up, and he had the best game of his LSU career. Now, what I want to see is, can we see that more consistently? And in a game where Neighbors is getting shut down or at least contained, and Thomas, they kind of game plan to take out and avoid those big, because he's more of the downfield guy, you know what I'm saying? If those two guys aren't producing at the level needed, can Lacey pick up the slack against an Alabama, against a Florida, against an A&M when they need those yards? He did that against Auburn. That was really impressive. And it looked like he's been doing this each and every Saturday. So he's got the confidence. I know he dropped a pass. Malik Neighbors told me yesterday that he told his guys, he told Malik, he told Brian, hey, give me the ball back. Told Jaden, give me the ball, throw me the ball. I'm going to make a play. And he did that 4 different times. So,
you know, look, BK is going to be respectful. He's got Army coming this weekend. I'm sure many of you have seen LSU's tweet with the image of the camouflage end zones that look sharp. You know, look, you look at what Army's done so far this season. They've struggled a bit. I think LSU handles this one. Should be great weather, and but it also gives some guys the ability to heal. Then you hit an open date. Emory Jones is in that camp of guys that you want to get up and 100% or closest to it as possible by the time they head out to Tuscaloosa. But I don't think there's any doubt that a little bit of what they're doing this week is also getting a little bit extra look and prep for Alabama. And so it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks leading into that one, because it's vitally important for both the schools. Look, there is a lot of important football games, not just in the SEC, but around the country. You know, how's this going to shake out? Well, everybody's wanting to bury the SEC, and if Georgia doesn't win the SEC championship game, the SEC might not have a team in the playoffs. And, you know, there's all these scenarios that are left to play out, but there's going to be some games that have a lot of say-so. I think there's going to be some shocking games that we're about to see here in the next month.
I think so too. You got Ohio State, Penn State this weekend. Brock Bowers is out for 4 to 6 weeks for Georgia. So like the SEC is wide open, I think. Like he is so important to what Georgia does. He single-handedly won that game for them at Auburn. They would have lost that game if he didn't go off in that fourth quarter and on that final drive and score that game-winning touchdown. So like I know it's one player, but Brock Bowers is worth like 6 players for the Bulldogs. So it is wild. I'm on the same wavelength as you in terms of Army. It seems like they're keeping Wingo out to let him kind of, get back to full strength. They got the bye week. They're kind of taking their chips back, and then they're going to put them all in the middle of the table for that Alabama game. And everybody that can play, anybody that can do anything, any secret play, technique they've been saving, it's coming out in this game because this game right here is the season. You lose to Alabama, you got 3 losses, everything you wanted to accomplish, done. But if you win, it's all suddenly possible again, and LSU is just whoop if they win that game. So be careful with Army, though. You can't look past them. They almost beat Syracuse, my alma mater. They were beating them at halftime. They almost beat Boston College. I know those teams are nowhere near LSU's atmosphere, but what they like to do is run the clock when they get first downs, limit possessions, and move the ball. So when you got the football and you're LSU, points every time. That's what you need because possessions will be limited. Points will be at a premium.
Absolutely. Cajun 5 says LSU 31, Gumps 24. Stephen Miller, yes, LSU needs to have Lacey produce like that down the stretch of the schedule. I was joking with Preston sitting next to me in the press box. I said, is Lacey had a couple of drops, and then I'm like, and so you start getting after him and bad talking him, and then he does something big. It's like, it's one of those deals with him. But you got to take the bad with the good with him. But I like to see a little bit more of Aaron Anderson. But with what Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas are doing, we're going to see. And I also think, we know how Mason Taylor was big last year. I like to see him a little bit more involved. And I will say this: the only thing offensively that look, you really have to nitpick with this LSU offense if you're going to find things you don't like. But I do think with what we've seen of Caleb Jackson, I really feel like he needs to be your number 2 running back.
That's a big boy right there. Yeah. It's been Logan Diggs all the way, and then it's been a little bit of John Emery, a little bit of Josh Williams. He had a touchdown last game. Haven't seen Noah Cain like at all season.
Right.
So not sure what that's about. But yeah, Jackson just week in, week out, he's like, you look away from the screen for a second, you look back, somebody's on their backside and Jackson's hovering over them. That guy is a load. Jacques told me that somebody on the team was talking to him about Jackson. He's like, yeah, that boy run like Leonard Fournette. I think so. That guy on the kick return is special. And the run game is special. That's a boy right there. You give him the ball,
north-south
yards after the carry. You know what I mean? Yards after contact.
He and Logan Diggs are north-south, and they're always falling forward. There's no dancing around and getting caught sideways. So, all right, guys, let's scroll down and get to some of your comments. And Lacey and Hilton return next year. Joe Sloan's salary is $600,000. That was from our earlier conversation. They looked that up, and look, that's what we were talking about earlier. In order to take him away from LSU, it needs to be an OC at a Power 5 school that pays coordinators, 1.2 and up.
Yeah, like maybe a Michigan State might be in the realm of possibility because they got to save all that money and not pay it to Mel Tucker. So they've got a lot of dough to dish out to a head coach that wants to bring in elite level coordinators. So that may be a school to keep in mind. Schools like that, that have a big bankroll.
I will say, though, if you look at Joe Sloan, his resume, I would think he would probably stay in the South.
Yeah, but, yeah. It's true. He has been a Louisiana, Florida guy, yeah. So.
Okay. Armani Goodwin has gone AWOL. I know Buddy keeps talking about him maybe getting a red shirt. So yeah,
they got so many backs. It's crazy. They got Trey Holly. Like, this is what I talked about in the summer a little bit, Mike, is it's kind of like a snack drawer. It's bad to have too many snacks. You know what I'm saying? So pick one and eat it. Pick one and go with it. They picked Logan Diggs. He's been the guy. And unfortunately for guys like Noah Cain, Trey Bradford, Armani Goodwin, there's just not enough food to put on the plate. You know what I mean? So it's just natural selection, it seems like, almost.
absolutely. Guys, if you're enjoying the show, please hit that like button and get over to Alumni Hall. LSU fans, they've got what you need. Show your LSU Tiger pride. Alumni Hall is your ultimate shopping experience. The best and largest selection of apparel for the whole family. Nike, Nike Golf, Champion, Columbia, Peter Millar, Southern Tide, Hatch Yeti gifts and accessories. LSU students, faculty, and military receive 10% off in-store every day, and you can earn cash back with their Hall Pass rewards. Alumni Hall located in Perkins Row or anytime at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Tiger fans shop, and they've got loads of new fall and winter gear, pullovers, hoodies, quarter zips. They've got all the great high-end stuff with LSU, the various different LSU logos on them. Swung in there the other day, absolutely loaded down with great LSU stuff. And also Koala Insulation. The team at Koala Insulation of Baton Rouge, your residential commercial energy efficiency experts. The approaches Koala provides not only help you reduce energy bills and maintain a more comfortable living environment, but can also help reduce airborne allergens, water condensation issues, wear and tear on your HVAC system, and even lengthen the life of your roof shingles. The Koala team provides existing homeowners with a doctor's diagnosis of your home's energy efficiency, and it can offer several strategies to help you stay more comfortable and save money on your energy bills all year long. Give Koala a call today, 225-457-1001, to schedule your free energy efficiency assessment, and tell them you heard about it on TigerBait.com, and you're going to get 7% off your project. Tim DeSell and his group are fantastic. They did some work here in my house, and as you guys know, I've been talking about how fantastic they are. Koala Insulation of Baton Rouge, 225-457-1001. I tell you what, John, I want you to tell everybody about what you've been doing on WAFB on their YouTube channel. We see your new studio. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But man, you kick out content almost every day, 2 and 3 different pieces. It seems like you're a content machine. So I think people need to not only follow you on Twitter, but they need to hit the subscribe and notification bell on WAFB because you're kicking out a lot of really great LSU football content, and people need to find it.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mike. Same to you guys. That's what I get paid for, you know. So recently moved into the sports department because Steve retired and there was a spot to fill there, Jacques moving up. So that's now my full-time job. Before I was kind of like a, feature reporter, Sunday news anchor. So that's my full-time job now. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I come up here and do a 20-minute podcast about LSU, the Saints, Tulane, basically all the local teams, Southern. And I do like 5-minute segments, and I do 4 of them. Like, why is LSU's defense struggling? Kyron Lacey had a breakout game. Why does the Saints offense suck? Just things like that. Why is Tulane so good? So those kinds of things. It's on our YouTube page, WAFB, every Tuesday, Thursday, about 5, 6 o'clock. We might be making our own separate YouTube page pretty soon here for like the whole sports department to kind of, not have podcast stuff and then have, news on the same page. So you can check it out.
I'm a broken record, but I've been telling Jacques, y'all been needing to do that for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Except at WAV Sports YouTube channel.
I think that's in the cards. That's going to be coming just to kind of separate the content. So again, every Tuesday, Thursday, it's called Game Time with John Eads, and it's a lot of fun. Sometimes we do film breakdowns on this board over here. Other times, we're showing you video from the games that we shoot and talking right here in front of this mic about a host of different topics. And if you have topic ideas, feel free to let me know on Twitter at John Eads TV, Instagram, all that stuff. I'm on there. So always appreciate feedback. And if you're an LSU or Saints fan, join us.
All right, guys, let's get a few of these in before we head out. Stephen Miller, great show. Mike John brought the goods tonight. Yes, he did. Hashtag game time. Great job, Mike and John. Cajun 5. John, welcome to Tiger Nation. Palermo Trapani says Bama was a 2 touchdowns over LSU and Baton Rouge last year. Favorite. Yes, they were.
Saw how that went.
LSU has better odds going to this game versus Bama to win than last year. Vegas will have it maybe -7 or -8. I agree on that one. So, but if that 13.5 is out there, you jump all over it right now. So
here's a question, Mike. Who are you favoring, this year's LSU team or last year's LSU team?
I'm favoring this
if
one.
they played each other.
This one.
I agree. Yeah. So that tells you all you need to know. Bama's worse. They lost a Heisman quarterback. LSU's better. They have a Heisman quarterback.
Man, but you know what? Now you got me thinking. There's some aspect of that defense last year. I don't know, man. The offense this year, though, is the difference. You choose this year.
All right. That's a good point.
But because I don't think that they finish in a negative way like they did last year. You're not going to end the season with a bad loss to A&M. I don't see that happening.
Not if they beat Bama and they got so much to play for. They had a lot to play for last year, but look, Brian Kelly, he's now been there before. A lot of the guys on this team, Jaden Daniels, they've been there before. They're not going to let that happen again. So plus you play Georgia State, Florida, A&M's down. They were down last year, but, backup quarterback, all that stuff. So, John,
absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us tonight, filling in for Buddy, and you did a fantastic job, and love what you're doing there at AFB, and keep trucking, man. And thanks to everybody tuning in. Hit like button on the way out, and we'll see you on the post game Saturday evening. And good night, everybody.